Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership at TEPSA. And each episode, I look to bring you a different guest who has encouraged, inspired, or challenged me in one way or another, and bring them on to share some of their story in hopes that it inspires you to tell some of yours. I am so excited for this episode's guest. I cannot tell you, there are some people who are great friends of yours and they're online all the time, but they're not the ones getting interviewed. So convincing them to come and get interviewed, like Chris and Chase and now Hope and Wade. Hope, I am so excited to have you. Thank you for being here. Tell everybody who you are if they don't already know.
Thank you, Todd. So happy to be here. My name is Hope King. I am an educator. First and foremost, my husband Wade and I also authored the book, The Wild Card. And I'm also one of the co-founders of Get Your Teach On. I am a mom. I am a runner. I am a believer. There you go, Todd.
You're a garage exerciser as well. I know I always see those Insta stories and I'm like, bravo, Hope. I cannot handle the sweating in the garage. I don't know how you do it in Atlanta.
Making the most of this quarantine, I'm telling you. I'm like, now I have the time, so let me take that time and use it to my advantage. So that's right. That's what that's about.
Well, Hope, whenever I interview an educator, I always love to first kind of start out with just seeing, what was your path into education? Because people are either go one of two ways. One, they were teaching their dolls when they were little. They always knew they were going to be in the classroom. And other people kind of had to grow into that idea and then fell in love with it. What was your path?
So for me, I was the one teaching the dolls in my bedroom with my friends my whole entire life. My mom, many people have met my mom now because of Get Your Teach On. And she is a crafter, a baker. She did wallpaper. She cleaned houses for a living. You name it, she did it. And so that's what I did my whole upbringing, my whole life. I followed her around. And I just loved being able to create and do. And ever since I was a little girl, literally, like you said, that is the story. My dolls were lined up. My friends and we would play school. My mom's best friend, who we spent a lot of time with, she even has videos of me doing this. I need to find some of those, by the way. And I just always loved it and always had a passion for it. Growing up, even, I wanted to be in classrooms and volunteering whenever I could through high school. And I knew it was just one of those things that I knew. I went to college. I never looked back. I never had, oh my gosh, what should I do this? Should I do this? I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. And still to this day, that being in the classroom, that is my happy place. That is where I'm filled with so much joy, inspired, motivated. I've never gotten sick of it or thought about a different profession. It is just truly my heart and what I love to do. So that has and will always be my calling.
Well, I've loved watching you interact with kids because, you can really tell how much somebody really loves the job by the way they interact with kids. And I know you've had experience teaching at several different types of schools in several different parts of the country. But my stories that I love the most when I talk to you are when you taught in South Carolina. And, that was such a unique environment. It was a school that was underperforming. It was Title I. There were lots of things that would make some teachers be nervous to work there, that would make other teachers like, I can't wait. That's the kind of environment I thrive in. What is one of your favorite memories of working there?
Oh man, that will always be home to me. And I started teaching first grade there and taught first grade for several years. And then all of a sudden there was this group that always needed an extra teacher moving up because they were a larger group coming in. And so ended up looping with those same kids to second grade. And then because they needed an extra teacher in third grade, I went and begged my principal. I said, please let me loop up at third grade with this group. Because we just were so connected and it was just such a solid family environment in that classroom. And so looped up to third grade with them. And I'm telling you, just seeing kids grow over 3 years and being in a consistent environment was just mind blowing. I just look back to our holidays in the classroom together and celebrations and being there for one another and growing together and learning and just becoming so solid with their parents. And I'm telling you what, that was honestly some of my fondest memories in the classroom. Just being with those kids, we had the best time. We laughed together, we cried together. It was just that being able to loop with them for 3 years was just a one of a kind experience and something that I will honestly never forget.
So, I have a question about that because I looped from fourth to fifth grade with one of my groups, and it was one of the best experiences of my career because the depth that I got to get in those relationships, not only with the kids, but like you said, with the parents as well. I can't even imagine having a third year with them and I say that because after having those kids for 2 years, that next year's group of kids, I had a really hard time getting over the loss of the kids I had for 2 years. Did you kind of see that as well? Like having those kids for 3 years and then new kids come in and you're kind of like, where are my old ones? Like I've had them for so long. I want them to come back too.
Well, it was a God thing how it all worked out because after having them for 3 years and that last day together,
I bet.
I just can't even go there. I just can't even go there. And now what's so crazy is they are going to be juniors this year coming up in high school, which is mind blowing, right? But that last year that I had with them, Wade actually got a job in Atlanta, Georgia. And so we moved to Atlanta the following year, which, like I said, was a God thing because just the thought, not that the teachers that I worked with, phenomenal. I knew whoever they were going to have in fourth grade, they were going to be incredibly blessed, incredibly taken care of, like taught well, all of the things. And so it wasn't because of that, but it was just, these were like my babies, And so we ended up moving to Atlanta. And so I think that was one of the best things for me because just having to separate from them would have been really, really, really difficult. But I knew that God was moving us somewhere else. And so to Atlanta we went and a whole new journey started over. So,
well, I think that would definitely have helped too, to kind of be like, they're moving on, but I'm moving on too. So it's kind of like a dual. So I can see.
And it was probably good for them too, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, Hope, switching gears a little bit, we're talked about the education, some things there, but you've just recently celebrated a 1-year birthday in your life with a little boy named Maverick. And I know that you've been very open about not only Maverick, but some of the struggles along the way. And I know you are I love, like, my favorite Insta stories that you share are when it's just Maverick doing something. Like when he's in that ball pit, or like when he's scooting around on the floor or digging. One of my favorites that Liz and I could not stop laughing at was one where he was grabbing frozen things out of the freezer and just throwing them on the floor. And you're like, yep, he just takes frozen things out of the freezer.
Yep, still doing that. Yep.
There's all this joy and happiness around photos and videos and things like that. But something that you struggled with quite a bit behind the scenes that wasn't always public until recently was you struggled with some postpartum depression as well. So kind of talk to me a little bit about that and what that experience was like for you.
Sure. Yeah. So this was honestly something that, I have dealt with anxiety a good portion of my adult life. Fortunately, I never had it as a child, as a teen. It kind of started hitting me in my college years and then progressively got worse as I became an adult. And so to be honest with you, anxious people are always anxious about the future. And so I even put off having a baby for quite a long time because I was so fearful of postpartum depression. It was something that I even talked to my therapist about. I talked to Wade a lot about. I was just so fearful that was going to happen to me because, again, that is what people with anxiety do. They fear the unknown. But I knew that we wanted to, obviously grow a family, and we were so blessed and so fortunate to be able to do that. And so after having Maverick, the labor and delivery part, I won't even go there. I won't go there, Todd. I won't go there for you today. Okay? I won't do that. But, I feared that part so much, obviously, just because, again, the unknown, like, I know my body's capable, but how will this work for me? And I feared that part, and I never really feared the after part. Yeah. But when becoming a mom, I recognized that I could deliver babies all the time. I could just deliver babies all the time. It's the bringing them home and recognizing that, so many people tell you it's the things that's not talked about. That's the problem. What people tell you is that it's going to be fine. Your natural instincts are going to kick in. Like, have you seen in the wild? It's just like, a mama taking care of her baby cub. Like, your instincts will just kick in and you got it. You've got this. And that's what people kept telling me. So I was like, okay, all right, here we go. I've got this. My natural instincts are going to kick in. And for me, I felt like mine never did. I felt like again, these are things that are not talked about because babies should be celebrated. It's such a blessing. but you can be blessed and highly depressed at the same time. And I think that's what people fail to see. Is I'm not saying that I wasn't blessed. Oh my word, like the blessings are raining down with this child. We were so grateful for him. But in those very same moments of recognizing that I was blessed, I also started recognizing that I didn't have an instant connection with Maverick.
Right.
I didn't have those motherly instincts that just kicked in. I had the instincts of, what have I done? Make it stop, send him back.
Right.
And that is just the truth. That is just the truth. And I feel like this is the kind of conversations that need to be had with women, because it's, again, it comes off as, oh, you sound like a bad mom. And then this is what moms feel when they have a baby. And so what do they instantly feel like? I'm a bad mom.
Well, it's funny that you're saying some of this, though, because just recently in several of the episodes that I've done on Tell Your Story, I've had several women on here who have shared that same struggle. And each one of them, it was their first child. And one of them that happened again with her second child. But she said, they all said the same thing. I didn't tell anybody that I was struggling because all I could think was, every photo, every mommy group, every blog post is how wonderful it is. And I was miserable. Yeah. And so for you, when did you realize that this is something more than just a bad day? Like, I need to talk to somebody about this.
I have a lot of great people in my corner who kept telling me, Hope, it's okay. Go to the doctor. Medicine is not a bad thing. But of course I was, no, that's not me. I kept putting it out of my mind. And the crazy thing is I would even, I was trying to open up and I would get on Instagram, or I would get in when I was posting on Instagram that, Maverick was crying, or that he was, dealing with colic or what, I was literally begging. Like that was me begging for somebody to say, you're normal. You're normal. This is what happens, Hope. This is what happens. And instead of that, I got the other, which was, do you know how blessed you are? Why are you complaining? And so after living this journey, I really started to recognize that, wow, like understanding postpartum depression. I feel like postpartum depression honestly comes from society more so. Now, hormones we all have, and it definitely does come from that too. Right. But the pressure of society on women, that is, and more now, and you see it more, the postpartum depression more now because of social media and access, like you said, of all these pretty pictures and all these perfect lives and all these perfect babies who never cry. And that I just recognized was not a reality. But the crazy thing is, Todd, is I didn't even realize that I was really, really going through this until I started coming out of it, which was about 7 or 8 months into the journey. So It was a good length of time. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny you say that because I interviewed Jehoram Warren earlier.
I love her.
I do too. And she was talking about her own journey and how her first child and how it was 10 months before she asked for help because she said, I didn't know what was wrong. And so, and then she goes the same thing that you said. I felt like a bad mother. And I felt like if I tell somebody, they're going to think I'm ungrateful. And I'm not ungrateful for having a child. I know how blessed I am. I know all these things about these emotions. And just like you said, I think society plays a huge role in that. And I think that goes with any kind of mental awareness that we're doing right now, whether it's depression or anxiety or postpartum. It's like society plays a role in when you're like, I don't want to be judged. I don't want to talk about this. It gets worse. And you think that you are the crazy one. You're the one with the problem. Why can't you just be grateful? And it's like, I'm trying, but there is literally an imbalance that is keeping me from doing that. And so, thinking where you are now, and looking at the growth you've had, when did you decide that it was going to be something that you would be very public about and being brave enough to share with others?
So I always knew, like, when I was going through this, I firmly, as I mentioned, I'm very strong in my faith, and I know that God allows things to happen to us for exactly what you're doing here, so that our story, even if it can only help one other person, can help that person. But if we never go through struggles and we never go through, trials and challenges, then we can't use, we can't have our stories to back up, hey, I know you're going to be okay. Hey, I know you're going to be okay. So even the whole time that I was going through, like, I even have screenshots of me crying and videos of me crying in my phone that I never shared at the time, because I knew that people would say, oh, you're just being ungrateful. I said, at some point, this is going to help another mom.
Right.
This is going to help someone else recognize this is normal. It's just, Todd, you know this too, just knowing that it's happened to someone else and that they are okay gives you literally all the hope in the world.
Yeah. Exactly.
All the hope in the world. And so, I knew the whole journey, even though that doesn't make it easy and that doesn't make it any easier. No. I knew the whole journey that one day I'm going to be able to use this. One day I'm going to be able to help someone else with this story. This sucks right now. This is the worst. And so, recently as we hit his 1-year-old birthday, which praise the Lord, we made it. We kept a human alive for a year. What? I really started feeling a strong pull and tug just to start sharing things and getting the conversation out there and opening it up for women. Just because I think that it needs to be talked about more and more and more and more and more.
I'm so appreciative of people like you and so many that you've had on and that have been in other places sharing as well, because, I think so many people, even if they don't tell you that it has an impact, it reminds them that I'm not the only one going through this. I'm not the only one feeling this way. If they came out, maybe I can go seek help and come out too. But there's something else that you said in there that really resonated with me. And that was, you were sharing some of your things on social media, and some of the feedback isn't always as supportive as you would like. And you are very publicly out there. You've got large social media followings. You've been sharing a lot of your story. And naturally on social media, we share a lot of great stuff, and we share the happy sides and the transformations and the fun and the laughter. But there's what I think people can forget is that there is a real person behind every account. And, I remember when I talked to Wade a couple weeks ago, he talked about, struggling through the Get Your Teach On National Conference last summer and knowing that these people paid to be here. I'm going to give them a smiley, energetic Wade, but I'm breaking down over here because I need to have my time. And so, I know that with being out there publicly, you're going to get people who are very opinionated about all kinds of things. So I guess my question is, how do you not let that destroy you? Because I think of my own personal journey, and like when one person on Twitter will respond back to something with something really hateful, and I have no idea who they are, I've never met them before, but I take it so personally of, I'm a terrible person. I can't believe I upset this person. And I don't even know if they're like a real account, but I'm over here going, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't mean that. Oh my gosh. And I'm losing sleep. And I know you must get it 10 times that because you've got so many very interactive people on Instagram, especially. And so how do you keep that from not consuming you?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It can be very difficult. As educators, we all know this because we've all had parents say something about us or kids say something about us. And, it's like the emails, you would get 25 positive emails from parents and just one bad one. And we all know how draining that is and how we just harp on that one. And that's all the only one that we can focus on. But, first and foremost, I think number one is admitting to yourself that you are not perfect and that you don't have to be perfect to be able to share your story, which is exactly what you're encouraging so many to do. Listen, I'm going to mess up. I am going to make mistakes on every possible angle out there. And I have to do mine publicly, right? And so, but with that, I also understand, and I'm so grateful to be able to share ideas with teachers. And so it's almost like par for the course. But when you make a mistake, to be able to admit it and to be able to show growth and to be able to show that we're constantly learning too. And so, I think a lot of it too is how you handle the situation. And so for me, sometimes, honestly, I just don't listen to it. I mean, there's some things that when people are telling me I'm a bad teacher or that, let me see your test scores. Well, if you want to contact me, I'll happily get you those, by the way. But those kind of things, I just really let roll off my shoulders because people are always going to have opinions. You have to remember something that Sarah Plum said to me the other night on my episode of Better Together, was she said, if they're not going to stand beside you and help you overcome what it is that they're saying that you need to fix, they're not worth your time.
I like
and
that.
I thought that to me was like, I needed that episode more than anybody. And so those are the kind of things where I'm like, okay, they can have their opinions about me, but I know my impact. I know my truth. I know my story. And so, but then sometimes, people come at you for your character, just like when you're an educator in the classroom, parents come at you for your character. And, my mom Todd, right? So teaches me lots of things, but she taught me a long time ago that you do not have to stand up for people saying lies about you. And so when people are attacking your character or telling lies about you, I don't think there's anything wrong with, it's not even so much defending yourself, it's just putting the facts out there.
Yeah.
So, I kind of handle situations in a lot of different ways. I sometimes try to take the high road, and I try to always be positive and friendly. But unfortunately, there's still going to be people who are going to attack you, just like, many of us have found in school buildings. Yeah. But again, you have to know your truth. You have to know your story. You have to know who you are. And for me, I know who he says I am. Yeah. And that's honestly what carries me through all of my situations, because that to me is what my purpose is on this earth. And so that's what keeps me going.
Well, and so much of what you said there is so powerful. And I love what Sarah said as well. That just really resonated with me. And I think about, even my role as a principal, how many things I would hear from parents or community members that I'm like, where the heck did you get that from? Like, that has never happened. I don't know who told you that. And
that game of telephone is really, really powerful, And
then, but then it's kind of like, but then sometimes I get in my head, I'm like, okay, well, do I address this? Do I not address this? Or do I do it like in a roundabout way where it's like, they say we're not doing anything. Oh, I'll just share, like, look at what our school did this week, like not directly address them. And so I get so caught up in my head. And I love what you said about, your faith is such a grounding thing for you and being able to rely on that. And I love that we both share that commonality, but I know there's still days where that doubt creeps in for you. And especially on a down day where it's like you had dealt with this person's comment, but on that bad day, that person's comment begins to creep back in. What do you do to protect yourself so that that doesn't become your reality when you know it's not what's true?
Right. Well, I think one of the big things for me, and this is something that I've always done, is you cannot feed yourself with that information, because what you feed yourself is what you start to believe about yourself, even when you know it's not true. Because you're right. Sometimes I'm like, what? Wait, what? Like, is that really who I am? And that's when you start allowing the world to tell you who you are. And no. Like that, no way, not going to happen. And so, people will send me things and they're just trying to be protective, and they'll send me screenshots of things. And Todd, I never open them up. I never read them. If somebody is addressing me personally through a message, and I'm happy to learn and grow and put things out there and share what I'm learning, but you do not have to feed yourself. So I do not go searching for information about myself. I do not do any of that whatsoever. And if I feel like it's starting to really overwhelm me, stay off social media. You can eliminate those things off you can take a break. You can take a break from Facebook, take a break from text messages, take a break from social media to remind yourself, hold on, again, for me. And that's when I start really diving into my word and figuring out, okay, this is who he says I am. Now, this is his purpose for me. And he never said the job was going to be easy, right? He never said the job was going to be easy. And so I don't believe in just letting it shut you down and stop what you're doing, because I know my purpose, and I'm going to continue to pursue that purpose for kids, because number one, I want to be the best person that I can be for kids, but I also want to be the best person I can be for other teachers to help them along the journey as well. And so I think you can shut it out for a little while, regain your purpose, regain your why, regain your focus. And that gives you strength to be able to continue moving along. And so that's kind of what I do when things are really difficult, because you're right, Todd. And we are real people, and those things do make me cry, and they hurt so deeply. Even if they're false, they hurt so deeply. And I think that people have to be so careful, because it's so easy to type on a keyboard, but remembering that they're truly affecting people with real emotions. And is that really the impact and legacy you want to leave on this planet? So
I love that. And I don't know what just happened to the video, but your video's not there, but I can still hear you. So I have my last question anyway, so we'll wrap up.
Go ahead. Okay.
And so, Hope, I always love to end my conversations with the question of, I believe as people, we hold something really deeply to ourselves, so many things that we believe in our hearts. And so for those people who are listening or watching today, if they were to walk away with one thing, what would your one thing be?
Oh man, gosh, Todd, couldn't you give me this question like before the episode actually began? I think that the number one thing that I truly have found power for myself, and I hope that others can find power in, is to be unapologetically you.
Yeah.
Do not apologize for who you are. If you know your purpose and your vision and what you're doing is the best that you can do, then you be unapologetically yourself and know that people are gonna, disagree with you. And not only that, but that you're gonna make mistakes, right? There I am back. I'm back.
Yeah, no, that was weird.
But to truly just be unapologetically yourself and to know that this is your journey through life and nobody else gets to dictate your journey. This is your journey. And so you're going to live, you're going to learn, you're going to grow, you're going to have hard times, you're going to have good times, all the things that we already know to be true about life. But you are going to be able to focus on your purpose so much more if you do it for yourself rather than what others tell you that you should be. You're that for yourself.
There's your drop the mic moment. So Hope, you know that I love the work you're doing. I love how you are wanting to be vulnerable and open and share all sides of education. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on Tell Your Story today.
Thank you, Todd. I know this was a challenge for me. It took me a long time to get on here. But seriously, thank you for allowing me to share my story, and hopefully it will help somebody else along their journey.
I'm sure it will. Well, thank you everybody for listening or watching another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out past episodes on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, it's there. I hope today's conversation with Hope has encouraged you to get out there and tell your story, because every story matters.